live concurrently, and we will also be recording it so that those who are not able to join us now can join us at some point later on. So please. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. So thank you once again. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again. My name is Seun Kolade. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship and digital transformation at Sheffield Business School. I'm also the convener of the Academy for Transformative Leadership, a global network of professionals across the whole spectrum of industry. We have those who are in the academy among us. We have those who are in business, those who are church leaders and charity leaders, and those who are in the media space. So a whole range of experience and in different countries of the world, but people of African background, really. That is what this academy is about. And today we are going to be talking about the subject of insecurity and targeted killings of Christians in Nigeria. A very, very important and sore point, if I may say, for our country and indeed our continent. So much so that we have had, in recent weeks or recent months, the intervention of the President of the United States of America. Today, we are going to be looking at this. There has been a lot of reactions, especially in recent weeks as well. This issue has been going on for many years, but there have been many reactions in recent weeks, including from the well-respected Bishop Kuka, and that has elicited another range of different reactions. But let me just do a quick rundown of some recent statistics. On December 24 to 26, 2023, there was a coordinated assault in Plateau on Christmas Eve in Bokos and Bakin Ladi. We have, across a range of Christian communities in that area, more than 190 people were killed and more than 300 homes destroyed and thousands of people displaced. In 2021, Kaduna Baptist Church, they were armed assailant attacked Bethel Baptist Church High School. They abducted 121 Christian students, several of whom were later killed or they died in captivity. Others were injured in the attack. Across Guma and Logu local government between 2021 and 2022, a series of attacks on Christian farming communities resulted in dozens of deaths in repeated raids. And in one widely reported incident, more than 50 people were killed, churches were burned, and many people injured or displaced. This was reported by Premium Times at the time. In southern Kaduna, twin Adara and Atiab communities between 2020 and 2021. These are more recent incidents over the past 5 years. There was targeted assault on Christian villages resulting in hundreds of killings over multiple months, with churches destroyed and widespread injuries. One Amnesty report documented that at least 240 deaths were reported in southern Kaduna alone in 2020. I'm coming further down, south. In June 5, 2022, we had the massacre that happened in Owo, in Ondo State. Gunmen attacked St. Francis Catholic Church during Sunday Mass, killing at least 40 to 50 worshippers. Some estimates say way more than that, more than 80, and injuring dozens. Explosives were also deployed inside the church that day. So this is just a catalog of woes and just a snippet of what has been happening. Now, we have had a wide range of reactions. Some have said that, well, it's not just Christians that are being killed. There are other people who have suffered, including non-Christian, including Muslims, that have been killed. And while that may be true, I think we want to hear today. So the argument does not really is not a sufficient or good argument, to bat down the talk specifically of what has been happening to Christians in Nigeria. And what we have done today is that many of us have read about this on the pages of newspapers, but we have brought in today leaders who are at the front line, who have not only, lived this experience, but they have been at the forefront of supporting other Christians on ground. And we want them to give perspective to what they have seen, what they know, what is happening on ground, so that we can begin to put this again on the global map, not only in terms of raising awareness, but in terms of coming down to discuss the pathways to resolving this problem once and for all, because it's a big problem. And it's also something that speaks to our collective humanity as a people, as Africans, as Nigerians, about what do we see about the value of the human life. So today we appreciate our two speakers who are here with us. I think others are going to join us. Reverend John Ayab is here with us today. Thank you very much, Reverend, for joining us. Reverend John Ayab is the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Northern Region, and he has direct responsibility and oversight, for Christian churches across the whole of Northern Nigeria, which is a region that comprises, 19 states. We also have here with us today Professor Salamatu Machunga Mambula, who is a professor of medical microbiology at the University of Abuja, and is also a key stakeholder and leader that has some important insight to bring to bear. When other speakers join us, I'll be introducing them accordingly. But I want to first begin then by handing over the floor to Reverend John Ayab to give us his opening remarks about, the state of affairs in northern Nigeria regarding, the persecution of Christians. And then we will then come back to Prof. Salamatu Machunga to bring our own perspective. But first, over to you, Reverend John Ayab. Thank you for joining us once again.
Prof, let me begin by thanking you for reaching out to me and inviting me to be one of the facilitator or resource person in this conversation. Let me also thank other speakers for joining. I am trying to check to know who is here and who is not here. But I recognize everybody, and I appreciate your contribution, and I appreciate all that you have been standing for. I have listened to your opening remarks, and I pick few things that I may want to start with as a way of trying to put it right. One, the children in our school that were adopted, none of them was killed. They all returned. What happened is that the duration of their stay was too long. That Treasure, to be precise, actually came back after 2 years, 4 months. But they all came back. I was directly involved. I was the one who received Treasure when he came back, the last one, and I presented him to the church and to the media. So I wanted our viewers or participants to get that aspect right. I have listened to many comments about Bishop Kuka. I have listened to many commentaries about what Bishop Kuka said or what Bishop Kuka do not say. And since I'm privileged to be in this conversation, I think I need to clear certain things. First, we all know that Bishop Kuka have been a strong voice in advocating for Christian rights. We also all know that Bishop Kuka was among the key person that went to the US when Nigeria was put in the first tenure of Trump as a country of particular concern. Did Bishop Kuka said that there is no persecution, or did Bishop Kuka said that? I think you need to really get the humility to know that what you find on the newspaper is not what Bishop Kuka said. I think there's a mix-up in the whole story. And interestingly, Bishop Kuka is so pissed off, he feels there's no need for him to continue to explain things for people who know his position for decades and to just turn one night and accept every story just because they want to accept it. I think from my understanding, Bishop Kuka was angry with the night because he was speaking at the night program and said to them, we are complaining that we are being killed, we are complaining we are being persecuted. But why is it that when Deborah was killed in Sokoto, we didn't come in mass? And he cited example. As knights, well-dressed in this your regalia, if 50 of you or 100 of you would have chartered vehicles and come to Sokoto and say you've come to protest the killing of Deborah, the nation and the world will know that Christians are disturbed about the killing. But you didn't do that. Sometimes you think that genocide is killing 10 million. To listen, killing one person could also be genocide. And there's a situation that even if 10 million people are killed, it is not genocide. But I think the journalists chose to write that aspect. And because every Christian is angry, we are just judging things wrongly. And unfortunately, we are condemning ourselves without even asking questions. I appeared in one of the television a few days ago, and I have to clear this by reminding them that Reverend I am speaking to you now. When this whole matter started, I was called to a meeting I didn't know much about, though I wanted to be sure what they are up to. I appeared in the meeting. I started by saying that anybody who denies that Christians are being killed is not honest, is not fair, and the denial of this killing is the reason why we are still in this confusion in the country. But let me correct something. When this whole conversation started, there was a comedian in the US who said, is it 100,000 Christians are being killed or 500? And someone said, no, there are 500,000. And I say that figure is an exaggeration. I even cited example. I say, when you look at from the Christmas Eve killing in Mangu to Bokos, around 200 people were killed in Mangu, almost the same number in Bokos, and around 200 people were killed in Elwata and Agatu. But because out of mischief, the man just went and did a video and said, I say only 200 people are killed. I couldn't believe it when I saw the video. I was only lucky that someone videoed me and gave me what I said. So I sent the video out and it contradicted what the man said. So I think there's something going on wrong with us. We are busy attacking each other instead of addressing the issues, instead of really knowing that the enemy is also strategically putting stories out there so that we'll be fighting among ourselves. I was on Arise the other day and I was telling story how myself, Reverend Ladi Thompson and Wale Adefarasi were in the forefront of raising concern about the killings, the terrorist attack in Maiduguri. And the journalist also asked me live, I think whether Hussein or one of them, that Wale Adefarasi is even denying that there's no genocide. For me, Reverend Hayab, I wouldn't have attacked him. I prefer to find out what exactly did he say. So I chose to start here because unless Christians start seeing this conversation as we are all involved and we can find solution together, if we go by attacking each other, at the end we'll be fighting among ourselves and won't find solution. After laying this foundation, I want to start by saying that Christian genocide, Christian killings, Christian persecution in northern Nigeria is real, is true, because it has been happening and it is still happening. As I speak to you up to now, Christians cannot buy land and build church freely in Kano, in Katsina, and other states. If they buy land, they will even tell them in the paper that this land must not be used for church or beer parlor. I was speaking to the Assistant Secretary of State in charge of human rights and religious freedom of America with the American Embassy ambassador just some couple of hours ago. And live, because they came to Nigeria, I sat with them at the embassy. And I told them, if I ever sell a land in my village and write like that and say this land will not be used for mosques or beer parlor, there will be war. That is the kind of disrespect we receive from our fellow citizens. In universities, they will build 10 mosques. They won't even allow us to build one church. The fact that our children will be jumping from one church or one classroom to the other to worship every Sunday. This is to show the way they think about us and they want to treat us. At every provocation, they can raise alarm and say you have blasphemed the prophet. If you remember the story of Deborah and even the young Muslim girl in Niger and many other stories, the lady in Gombe and others, that just a false alarm of blasphemy. Blasphemy has become a cheap way to settle scores with enemy you don't like. They will want to force our girls into friendship. If any girl refuses and wanting to show that she's doing that because she's a godly person, they can now raise alarm and say she has blasphemed the prophet and kill her. So what do you call persecution if you don't count this one's persecution? Those who are talking about genocide used to argue that the killing is not up to genocide. I want to share the Kuka's idea. Even one person killed can be genocide. Because if it is a targeted killing, if it is aimed at destroying her identity, her people, her name, and other things. But I want to add to this that one definition of genocide is when they even take over your children. For us in northern Nigeria, for decades, they used to take our young girls, and you will just sit down as a father, and the emir will call you and tell you that, look, if you don't see your daughter is with him, she has gotten a new father, she has been given out for marriage. And you ask yourself, how old is your daughter that she will now decide to change her father? She may be 12, she may be 10, but they will tell her to go to the Sharia court and claim to be 18 or 20 so that it will be difficult for you. One, they took her to Sharia court. Two, she's claiming here that your father knows her age, and she's claiming what is not. So there are a lot of things people are going. Sometimes they deny us opportunity, just a way of persecution. I have to tell the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in charge of religious freedom that, look, I personally have to take Kaduna State government and the university in Kaduna State to ECOWAS court, and I'm waiting for judgment now to challenge why they cannot allow church there, but they have thousands of mosques every corner. So, but when we come to killing, that one is even beyond what you can talk about number. If you remember very well, apart from the Zangon Katab crisis in 1992 or the College of Education crisis in 1987, in 2000, we buried over 2,000 people in Kaduna, and what happened was simply they killed them because they were saying no to Sharia. I remember that was how I met Reverend Ladi and his team, the Macedonia Initiative, when they came around to help rebuild our churches. Many of our pastors deserted the Kaduna and other parts of the north to go and start ministries elsewhere. Those who were killed, no compensation, nobody even think of them up to today. In 2002, apart from being part of the burial of 2000, another issue came up. That's the Miss World Beauty pageant. It was religious. For those who are claiming it's not religious, it was religious. Because they didn't want the beauty pageant to happen, and it happened. And a lady wrote an article. The Christians, the churches in Kaduna don't know the lady. But we wake up in the early hours of the 21st of November 2002. Our churches were burnt. I remember very well that over 285 churches were burnt within 48 hours. And over 350 people were killed. Unfortunately for me, because I'm saying unfortunately, I did alone in that case, not like the 2000 that some of us were involved. In 2002, I was the one that was called by government to a very thick bush somewhere where nobody can go to go and just pray for those 350 people that were killed. And we know what happened during the Danish cartoon. We didn't even know the design of the caricature that was made. But our churches were burnt in Maiduguri and in Bauchi because someone believed he should protect his religion and protect those who want to disrespect his prophet. Where do we come as Nigerians? Are we in Denmark? We don't even know the cartoonist. We don't even know what he did looks like, but we suffered. But by 2009, Boko Haram have become so strong. I remember telling them that when Boko Haram struck, they actually went to the church. The first three pastors they killed, one is Pastor Oji, one is Pastor Sylvester Osonebo, The third one was actually Pastor Bitrus Yakubu. Pastor Bitrus Yakubu is actually originally from, he was the managing medical director of Maiduguri General Hospital. So he quickly picked the wife of his late brother, took her to Cochrane headquarters in Jos. But who attended to Oji and Sylvester Osanabo? I did, with the understanding of the Akwa Ibom community there. They picked the corpse of Sylvester Osanabo home. I flew to Calabar and drove from Calabar to Ekotipene, and we buried Sylvester Osanabo. Up to this hour that I'm speaking to you, I keep communicating with the families from 2009 to today, either looking for support for them for education of the children and others. I remember even recently, one of the child died, and the people there came up with some fetish actics something and attacked the wife. It was so terrible. I have to look for a bishop to stand for her. But the beginning of our suffering happened as a result of religious persecution and killing of our husband in Maiduguri. The wife of Oji was the luckiest among them. Because when we had conversation with Reverend Ladi, he discussed with Wale Adefarasi and discussed with Papa Ayo, and they put together a plan, and they picked her to Lagos. I flew to Lagos for the commissioning or dedication of the house they got for her. The house at that time was behind Deeper Life in Bagada. So she stayed there for almost 25 years. She stayed there for 25 years because she just relocated from Lagos back to Abuja this year. So I understand these things. And life has never been the same with that woman up to now, despite the support and the help that keep coming. So we've lost so many people in many numbers. During the last administration of Erufai, for me as county chairman of Kaduna at that time, virtually every week I'm burying another 10, 20, 30, 40. I was surprised the other day, my driver just sent to me photos, and I saw myself with chains of cops everywhere. I said, how do you get this? He said, when we went there, I was snapping you, but I kept it to myself. It's when you started this conversation, then I'm pushing some of the photos for you to see that these things you are saying are real, because I snapped you when you went to bury those huge number of people. So Christians have really suffered from Maiduguri to Taraba, to Adamawa, to Kaduna, to Kano, to Sokoto. See, sometimes they would deliberately create a situation for you so that when you come to seek for help, they will tell you that the only way they can help you is only until you convert to Islam. And even the almighty people we celebrate in the Islam leadership are doing this to our people. So we must give credit to Trump for even coming out to speak. I've spoken to many American groups, and I tell them, look, people may think Trump used very terrible language, but I must confess that this is the only time I've ever seen that someone said something and some people knew that someone is watching them. I just want to give this preamble. Probably when we go to question and answer time, I'll be able to respond to other things. So Christian persecution in northern Nigeria is real. And let me conclude by saying, for those of our brothers and sisters who are in the South and thinking that this matter do not concern them, I can tell you many months, look, in 2000, when they killed us, I remember people in Plateau look at me on the face, because I was then CAN leader, public relation officer of Kaduna State, and said this will never happen in Plateau. Today it is happening every day, every month in Plateau. I went to the synod of NKST in 2006. I speak to them in Makodi, in Minka. I told them, look, I'm happy to come here because I was born and brought up in this place in the in the late 60s. And today I've come to tell you what is happening. I remember the president of the synod of the NKST, when he picked the microphone, he said, my son, we are sorry for what is happening to you people. But you know, this thing can never happen in Benue. But today, it is like every day it's happening in Benue. So when things like this start happening, and some people think it does not matter or it does not concern them, the way and the pattern of this evil, it will soon catch up with those who are thinking it is not their own. So we better wake up to stop it. And that's why I like the idea of let's speak the truth. Let's call a spade a spade. Let this evil be tamed now. Because if we allow it, it's a great opportunity God has given us. If we allow it, tomorrow we will not be able to complain again. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Reverend John. I really appreciate, your intervention there. This is really eye-opening on many levels. And it's exactly why we wanted you to be here to really speak to the issue, because there's a lot of people, not only in Nigeria, but outside, who do not have the full picture of what is going on. And it's very important. So we'll come back to you again. But thank you for that opening remark. It's incisive and insightful. And I thank you also for correcting the statistics earlier on. I think it is very important for us, very, very important, that as we engage this issue, we have to anchor it on the premise of, telling the truth as it is, on telling the facts. We shouldn't, embellish the fact, shouldn't add to it or take away from it. And I think all of us as citizens, should be, committed to that, to the business of, truth telling, of also correcting our facts when we have gotten it wrong. I think that is important, because it is too serious an issue for us to be flippant about. Thank you very much indeed, Reverend Ayab. I will now go to the Right Honorable Tiwashe Obunde, Engineer Tiwashe Obunde, who brings an important and unique perspective to this conversation. He was the Chief of Staff to the former Governor of Benue State, Governor Sam Otom, at the very heart of, this challenge, this crisis, in Benue State. And he has some, first-hand experience to share, not least as a key political leader in the states. So we've had Reverend John Hayab speaking as a leader, as one of the key, Christian leaders in northern Nigeria. Honorable Tawashe Obunde, the floor now is over to you for your opening remarks. We still come back to you with some questions, and then the people on the floor will also be allowed to intervene with their questions later on. Yes, please, Honorable Obunde, can you please unmute yourself and maybe, turn on your camera as well, so that we can see you and hear you for your opening remarks. Okay, so I can see, yeah, I'm going to. Please unmute yourself, Engineer Obunde. I think you are still muted at the moment. Okay, so please just bear with us as Honorable Obunde unmutes himself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can now hear you. You are on.
Thank you. Loud and clear.
Yeah, good evening, sirs.
Thank you very much.
Let me take this opportunity to thank Professor Cheung for this initiative and to thank every participant. Like he said, throughout my 6.5 years as Chief of Staff to His Excellency Samuel Otom, I was at the forefront of most of the challenges that we faced, both locally, nationally, and internationally. It's true that in 2018, it came to a head when the 73 people were killed at the eve of New Year, and we took a decision that we're going to do a mass burial. We took that decision because we needed the world to know. And as it turned out, the governor asked me to be the chairman of the mass burial committee. We had paid for 2 hours of live broadcast on channels, and the president then, President Buhari, sent the vice president to plead that we should not do a live transmission because of the chaos that it was going to cause.
I think we have lost Honorable Obunde there. Is it just me?
Listen here.
Okay, we've lost Honorable Obunde. We lost you for a few seconds.
Are you hearing me?
We lost you for about 10 seconds. You're
Oh,
back
okay,
on
sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was just rejecting a call. Yeah, so whereas we're ready to stop the broadcast on channels, we could not stop CNN, Al Jazeera, and the international organization. So the mass burial was transmitted live, and it created quite a lot of issues. As the chairman, and I had to take a look at every one person who was killed, how they were killed, so that I will sign the death certificate. Create 73 casket and 73 graves to put them in. And all of you, I'm sure most of you saw the impact they created. The many killings took place earlier than that, and some took place even after that. Of course, the one in June of the 200 people killed at Yelwata gained global attention. As someone who was in the Security Council of the state for those number of years, there are many things that we came across which sometimes we were not able to say. For instance, we received intelligence that we're going to be attacked on 5 fronts one day simultaneously. And we couldn't announce that because we didn't know where the attack would come from. And if we announce it, we may lose control because of the mass movement that would take place. So we kept quiet and kept watching until it was on a Sunday when the attacks really started. And what helped us was that because we were alert, we could mobilize 2 helicopter gunships to be able to help us at an area battle. That was the only way we were able to dismantle the attacks that came. The nature of the attacks center around churches, schools, hospitals, farms. And so anyone who says there's no genocide is either denying the truth or pretending. I myself, last year on my farm in Makodi, was attacked. I was shot on my right arm. I have 2 broken, my bone broke in 2 places. And my wife was taken away with her assistant for 4 days. And a ransom of 100 million naira was placed. And we thank God that graciously, after the negotiation, God helped me, friends, well-wishers across the globe to raise that money and pay. And we sent a speedboat on the River Benue to go and take delivery of this woman. The operation started about 2 p.m. It was by about 8 p.m. before the women were able to be brought back, my wife and assistant. These things are for real. I want to bring another dimension to this. Many of us have read the Sardauna Sokoto's press conference in the Comet newspaper, 12th of October 1960, when he said, this new nation called Nigeria should be an estate of our grandfather Usman Dan Fodio. We use the northern minorities as willing tools, the South as a conquered territory, who allow them to rule over themselves and who allow them to rule over us. It was not a private discussion, it was a press conference. In saying so, he had come up boldly to state clearly the plan that they have had. And when my ATL is speaking, they make very bold statements. They distort history. For instance, I happen to be from Benue State, a thief man. The spread of Islam, a call. Are you hearing me now?
We can hear you. We lost you again for a few seconds, but you're back on. Yeah.
Yes, when calls come in, I reject
Yeah.
them.
No
So
worries.
I was saying that when the Sardauna of Sokoto made that public statement, it was a press conference. He was stating their mission in clear terms. And for those of us who happen to come from Tiwland, especially the local government where I come from, that's where the Usman Danfodio's army was stopped. Of course, they sent us there. They're not pretending. And they are very strategic in the way they approach this issue. They have been waiting for an opportunity to enter Benue State. That opportunity presented itself in the present governor of Benue State, whom they funded to be the governor. Of course, I'm sure most of you hear the comments he makes. It's strategic. It's not only Benue State. They needed to make an entrance into the southeast. They timed it until an opportunity presented itself, and they took Imo State. Like many of you, I'm sure, who listen or who watched the Supreme Court judgment that brought Hope Uzodinma from number 4 in an election to become the governor. He's going to the 8th year now. These people are very strategic. And so I would like to say that in responding to what is happening now, we should not think that it is a flash in the pan. It's a program that has been set up for quite a long time. And the Fulanis have been very clear that Nigeria is a country given to them by God. In 1995, when I was a guest at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London and the House of Commons, the young man who spoke to me in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office told me that they were instrumental in handing over power to the Fulanis. Of course, they didn't know what they were telling me. I was interpreting it in the light of a victim. And they said it, that they gave power to the Fulanis because they understood what Islam stood for. They understood what Islam stood for. They knew that Islam was an Abrahamic religion. So it is far deeper than what we're looking at. But I'd like to bring my comment to a close by saying that we need help in Benue State. We are working towards replacing against his people. For instance, when I was attacked, my wife kidnapped, his concern, what is sent his chief security officer to do was to make sure that he finds our telephones and collects them. So when we sent to the police to collect the telephones, they said, no, the chief security officer says they should not be given out. He was coming to collect them. My own phone and my wife's phone. So there's a deep conspiracy, and we are really working towards replacing this governor, because when the chief security officer of your state is in conspiracy against his people, it can be terrible. In the early time of his government, when you report that you have been attacked, it is you who has gone so that at least we have a breathing space. When His Excellency Oton was in government, one of our major issues was to make sure that we do not allow them to take our land. But if we lose that basic control, then we're really in trouble. So pray with us, but beyond prayer, we are doing physical and practical things towards building a coalition, building a consensus within the state that will replace the present governor so that it doesn't do a second term. Because if it does, we are finished. Let me stop here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tewashi Obunde. Some really deeply personal reflection there. And I think it's important for people to hear this. These are not just theoretical issues. These are not just abstract issues. These are issues that come closer home. You recanted how your wife was abducted with her sister, and you had to pay ransom. I mean, not a small amount of money as well. And, so when we read about these things on the pages of newspaper, they are not just numbers, they are not just statistics. You have also raised a number of issues that I hope we can explore further later on, including what should we do as Christians to chart a path forward for the future. I'll come back to you on these, Honorable Obunde. I think there's many important issues there that we need to, push deeper to where can this lead us in terms of operational action and steps, to chart a new course and make things better for everyone, but thank you very much. I will now call on Professor Salamatu Machunga, who is also a key stakeholder on this. I would, bring you now into this spotlight. And so we've heard from Reverend John Hayab, who is a key Christian leader in northern Nigeria. And we have heard, from Honorable Tawashe Obunde, who is a key political stakeholder in the region as well. But we know that, there are other perspectives. Not least, the gender perspective is also really important. We don't talk about it enough. How these, affect women in very unique ways. But also, from your perspective, also as an academic who is in the field of medical sciences, and your perspective as a community leader, we want to hear your thoughts about, what is happening in Nigeria, especially in northern Nigeria. Is there a Christian genocide? And what are your thoughts and reflections as a community leader, as an academic, and as a woman?
Thank you very much for this opportunity to participate in this discourse. And I want to thank you, Professor Sheung, for organizing this meeting. And yes, it's quite fascinating, the topic and the question that has been trending: is there Christian genocide or not? I think you have to be deaf, blind, and dumb to say that there's no Christian genocide. But let me touch on a few, and I want to thank my colleagues who have spoken ahead of me. They have given quite a wide perspective to this issue. I, as an academic, maybe I'll speak more as a middle belter. For quite a long time, I've been very active with the Middle Belt. We had a think tank, Middle Belt Dialogue, whereby we used to sit down and write publications and so on. So I want to take us back. I think some of the perspectives that have been shared maybe we're talking about 2021, 22, but I'm taking us back. For some reason, anyway, let me go even right back to 1991. I was privileged to get the Commonwealth Scholarship. This is a personal experience, to get the Commonwealth Scholarship. And in October 1991, I was heading to the UK to pursue my PhD under the Commonwealth Scholarship. That was the night Reinhard Bonnke was supposed to hold a crusade in Kano. And it was just God that brought us in. We left Jos. I'm from Plateau, my husband is from Borno. So both of us were heading to study. We got into Kano early, and we decided, because we didn't know Kano too well, to locate where the airport was, because our flight was at night. And so we were going around the town in the afternoon. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, my brother-in-law who drove the car brought us from Jos. He has a friend who was in the military and advised us that we better head to the airport and remain there. If not, we might not be able to. There's crisis in the city. We had no clue. We didn't know what was going on. It was after we left, and late at night, the flight was at 9 p.m., if I remember correctly. We left the city, and, when we got to UK, to London, we now started reading about the crisis that erupted. Why am I bringing this story up? Way back, there's a very serious imbalance. Our constitution says that we're a secular state, but these crusades, you cannot host a crusade of the Christian faith in the core Islamic states that we have in the country. You're in a stadium, you're not even out on the streets, but it was prohibited. So this, I'll call it a kind of genocide of being disenfranchised as a citizen of this country. You can't go to, some states are very restrictive, the core north, in allowing religious issues going on. Then secondly, out of personal curiosity, in 2018, I started documenting every newspaper article. I thought, let me, do that just for the records. So anytime there's killing, of course, in those days it was called Fulani farmer herders clashes. I used to disagree with everybody. I said, how can you say people are farming and they're clashing for what? Somebody comes in and invades their farm, destroys it, and you're calling it clash. This is an attack. Anyhow, so I started making document. I gathered a lot of information. It wasn't WhatsApp, YouTube, or personal reports, newspaper publications that are depicting that. And I'll share with you one. I went into my system. There's one by Amnesty International. This is the map of Nigeria. Can I share my screen or it's okay? Maybe I'll just describe what I have here.
You can share your screen, Prof.
Okay, fine. So let me do that. How do you do that? I'm more of a Google Classroom person. Where do I go? Okay, more.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Let's see. Where do you share screen now?
So when you look at your screen, we're next to React. There's a share option there with the arrow up just before the list of participants. You can click on that and it will bring up the options to share.
Sorry, with the arrow up where? Sorry, view.
So when you start looking at the bottom of your screen, you have audio, video, chat, React, and then share.
Yes, yes.
So okay. And then you can click that, yes.
Right. Mine doesn't seem to have that. I only have the chat.
After chat, you will have React and then share.
React, mine says it has 3 dots. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Share, okay. Okay, fine. So this is the document. Sorry. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this was 2018, herder farmer clashes. Of course, we do not agree with that terminology. Banditry and Boko Haram killing. So they did it. Amnesty International put this document together for us. And they now documented the killings in 2018. Borno 168, Yobe 4. So the black is by Boko Haram, while the red regions are by Fulani herdsmen. So Sokoto 13, Zamfara 219, Kaduna 181. This is just, I don't remember, they didn't state the timeline, whether how many months in the year. Plateau 348, it's a little not clear. Nasarawa 140, Taraba 180, Benue 278, and so on, all the way down to the southeast and Oyo. So I brought this map. This is 2018. And you and I know that the situation is completely out of hand right now. So way before the 2000s that we're speaking about, this has been going on. Then the next angle I want to bring us to is a newspaper, an article I saw. Again, this was in 2018. This is a report from Plateau State. So this attacks the middle belt. Like I said, I tended to focus more on the middle belt. had been experiencing was as a result of taking over lands and, living there, getting rid of the natives, the autochthonous people, the owners of those lands, and displacing them. So 2018, now we have over 100 and something communities. So this report, like I told you, I was just out of more like a hobby, but it was a very painful hobby, I must say. I was just documenting newspaper articles. I think the pages I have 100 and something pages now, 2018. So this report says, a report by Vanguard claims, this is the title of the article, that over 54 communities in Plateau State have been taken over by herdsmen after recent attacks in the state on farming. And they go into detail. Let me give you examples of the names so that we're not just creating, a story here. So they give names, the original names and what they are now. There's a village called Rotchun. We from Plateau, we have interesting names. Then AKA Rafin Acha, that's the new name, taken over by the Fulani. Dankum, renamed Mahanga. Hua, renamed Lugere. Fas remained Tafawa, and so on. So 2018, this report is from 2018. 54 communities have been taken over. I have more recent reports that a member of the Plateau State Assembly said that 100 and something communities in the Plateau have been displaced, taken over, and renamed. So how on earth will you not call that genocide? Displacement completely, the whole community, there's no indigenous person living there. So it's a serious matter. And I want to take us back to 2015. I remember I share citizenship with America, so my perspective about so many issues are a little different, maybe from most people. With all due respect, I remember when Governor Otom, I even have the article here, was it in 2015, 10th October 2015, they had a huge ceremony on television where communities were asked, oh, come and surrender your arms. We want to make the state peaceful, come and donate your arms. And there was it was on TV, I watched it. And in my mind, I thought, is this right? The reason I questioned it, a lot of the reasons why our communities are being attacked unhindered is because there's nothing to stop the attackers. In my mind, I thought, if everybody, including the herders, were also surrendering arms at that time, let's all come and surrender it together. Then I can, it will be balanced. But it seemed to me, I think even Plateau State participated in that arms surrendering ceremony, which was displayed and showed everywhere. I had my reservations about that, and I could be wrong. But I'm telling you, if our communities were armed and nobody surrendered any arm to anybody, I do not think the experiences we're having today would be what they are right now. Because the Constitution gives you the right to self-defense. And when you cannot defend yourself, anything can happen. Anything can happen to you. So I needed to bring these perspectives so that we see where we are and what is happening. And it's good, thanks to President Donald Trump, who has forcefully come to bring this attention, make it a global issue so that the whole world is paying attention. Nigeria is in the center of the whole globe right now in terms of this genocide. And finally, as a woman, I'll share my perspective. The widows and orphans, I cannot even begin to mention to you the widows and the orphans that have been left from many, many, many years ago as a result of this genocide against our communities. They are uncountable. Uncountable. Then the internally displaced persons, that have migrated from Borno. Some of them have migrated. There's a huge population in Plateau that have resettled there. Even in the FCT, they've resettled there. Total chaos. And these people have remained in these camps continuously up to today as we speak. And more are still being attacked and heading to camps. The camps cannot even sustain them. They are not living in conditions that even animals should be living in. No, the government has not taken this very, very seriously. First of all, the government has not done anything to protect the citizens, the communities. And then now they are displaced from their natural habitation. And even while they're being punished by living in very subhuman conditions. So I rest my case here until later, but I'm so happy that finally this conversation has come to the fore. And maybe us who are victims of these circumstances will now start thinking differently and doing things differently in terms of trying to mitigate some of the issues. Because at the end of the day, I'm a believer that we cannot wait, the government cannot do everything for us. We need to find ways to defend ourselves. For me, that is the way forward. And again, I want to commend Governor Otom, the same one who wanted to, communities seize their, surrender their arm. He's the same one that established the Middle Belt Guards as a means of having some form of security outfit that will start intervening in some of these issues. So I'll stop here as my brief introduction until
Thank you. Thank you so very much indeed, Prof. I think you've brought in a lot of insight there that, really factual, that, detailed, but of course also personal reflection on the work that you have done in your own space as a leader, as an academic, and as a mother, as a woman. These are really, really, important matters. And I'm sure that the audience is waiting to bring their perspectives and insight. But I just want to open with a few questions. I'm not sure. I think General Yola has just joined, if I'm not mistaken. General Henry Ayola, are you there? Okay, I think if you can please unmute him, Prof, or any of the co-hosts. I think I seem to see General Yola. Okay, I think I found him. See, I have found him, yes. So I'll be calling you shortly, General Yola, to bring your reflections and perspective. But I think a number of issues are coming up. And Prof, highlighted these, very succinctly, and as well as Honorable Obunde and Reverend Ayab earlier on. So at the heart of this is a struggle for resources, for natural resources that are limited, and especially land. So can I just come back to you first, Honorable Bunde, because you're a political leader. So what, in your thought, I mean, I know there are no short answers here, but we are trying to get through a lot of questions, and I'm sure audience was also want to ask. What's your brief response to the problem of land? What do you think is the way to solve this problem once and for all, in a way that also gives opportunity for law-abiding people who are Fulanis to engage in legitimate economic activity? Because we want to solve the problem. We don't want this to be an intractable, endless, cycle of tragedy and harm to the indigenous people of North Central Nigeria. So what do you think is the way forward to address this problem in a way that those who want to engage in legitimate economic activities can do so without displacing the people who are hosting them, without displacing, the indigenous aborigines, sometimes you could say, people who have been in the land for thousands of years, If I may ask you to give a 2-minute response to that because of time, and then come back to you again. Because I know there are no short answers, but try, Honorable.
Okay. Thank you, sir. To say it in 2 minutes, first of all, the law must be the ground norm. The law, the open grazing and prohibition law of 2017. Sorry, the open grazing and prohibition law of 2017 made provision
It looks like some calls are coming and interfering with
those who wanted to legitimately engage and provided opportunity for people to apply for land. Unfortunately, the people who are dealing with do not want to obey the law. So a short answer to what I'm saying, first of all, you need commitment from our leaders. We need to be honest about what is going on, but we need to also rely on the law. If we do not rely on the law, then you create a state of anarchy, which is where we're heading now. And the people we are talking about are not law abiding. So it becomes a very challenging thing. But a brief answer would be that, one, we have to have leaders who understand the challenges we face. I said it in passing that there is a plan that these people have that are implementing. We're only trying to respond to it now. It's because Donald Trump has come up and has done a tweet that has set the whole nation to where we are now. But let us know that what we are dealing with is systemic, is historical, is well planned. It's not an accident. So we need to have people who understand what these issues are.
Yeah.
Number two, we need to to depend on the law. If there is no law, we're going to have a problem. And if someone is not law abiding, then we have to take them on.
Yeah.
What the professor said, we need communities that are armed so that if someone refuses to obey the law and comes shooting, the community should be able to respond.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So let me stop there.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were still talking. Thank you very much, Honorable Obunde. I think everybody will agree with you there. That has to be the starting point of any lasting solution. It's about the law. So, and I think it's about fashioning a law that doesn't exclude anybody, including any Fulani that want to engage in legitimate business activity, but a law that protects people from in their ancestral land. That is a basic, requirement, a basic, right of any citizen anywhere in the world. And I think the idea that open grazing is not sustainable, it cannot work. And I think you have to get everybody to come to that recognition that, you cannot open graze because people have their land, they have things on it, whether they are farmers or otherwise. You can't just encroach and do whatever you want to do without the recourse to the law. We'll come back to that later. But I believe we have General Yola here now, because there's also a big question in the mind of many people, General. If you are listening to us now, I think it has been made a co-host as well. That why has this become an intractable problem for a country that helped liberate Liberia, that helped, stabilize Sierra Leone? We have sent the Nigerian armed forces to other countries to help them. So why exactly has this become an intractable problem that we have armed people, some of them with sophisticated weapons, invading communities and killing people in their undress? We have had it. This is not just statistics. So, General Yola, I just wanted to give your opening remarks on this, specifically having been at the forefront as a retired general on the Nigerian Army. Why has this become an intractable problem for the army? And what is the way forward? General.
Yes, good afternoon. Sorry, I am on the road. So I'll try to do the best I can. I think I'll soon get to where I will be stable. But between now and then, I think the first place or where really to start from in this discussion is to define the problem. Like Honorable Tewase just said, if we cannot define the problem as accurately as the amount of intelligence available to us, then we are not yet set to even solve it. Okay, I don't know of any research methodology does not involve the definition or the statement of the problem. I don't know of any problem-solving technique that does not start with the definition of the problem. And that's something the whole nation have been dodging all along. We've been dodging being able to properly diagnose, discern, and define and dimension the problem properly, accurately, honestly, so that we can then begin to profile solutions. And let me say, just like Honorable Tewasi said, there is nothing accidental, incidental, or circumstantial about this issue. This is a deliberate agenda, well-crafted, well-oiled with propaganda, information warfare, psychological operation, systematic implementation. It didn't start today. It didn't start 2009. It started right from the beginning, even before independence. It's just that our forefathers were either oblivious of it or they were not aware. Our fathers were, our senior brothers were, and that's why it got to where it is now. Because with each generation that has passed, the adversary had become more audacious and more reckless. And that's why it has played out to the point that intervention is what is pursuing. Understand it. I don't know how many of us are, it depends on where you're coming from. I've been watching the over 52 years of my, since when I started from as a soldier in the military school in Zaria. So I know what I'm talking about. I know how we got to where we are now. I know what it used to be before 1975. I know when these changes began and when this audacious display of superiority, and the rest of us, because we tolerated it, that's why we got to where we are now. So we unveil some of these that have been sold to us. Most of the information in the mainstream are actually lies and deceptions. Best half truth. So defining the problem is the start point. We've got to know that calling these things crime at all is minimizing the issue. Calling when you hear they say herders and farmers clash, that's an insult to our intelligence. Because what we have is a militia invading the nation and grabbing lands from indigenous people. You cannot be saying there's a clash between a farmer who is in his own land, in his own place, his own home place, and then you come from somewhere else, haven't brought people from all over Africa to come and take Nigeria in order to own it. You cannot be calling that a clash. That's an invasion. Okay, so I thought we needed to sort that out before I talk about why Nigerian armed forces or the Nigerian security sector cannot handle this. And of course, if you understand the problem, you then know why the armed forces are not able to solve it. Because the problem is the people who should solve it are part of the problem in most of the cases. Some of the people in power right now who are supposed to be solving the security problem, they're actually part of the agenda that is being hashed. So how do you want them to solve it? Most of the elites that you hear from the North particularly who talk about this issue, they know what the problem is. They're not wasting our time discussing and engaging us and trying to further ensure that the lies and the deceptions they are hatching are still working. That's what is going on. So if the rest of us who are on the side of the union, the unity of Nigeria, must come to that understanding.
Okay, I think we've lost General Ayola there, and he was saying some really important things.
To start from. Okay, the reason why we can succeed in Liberia, succeed in Sierra Leone is simple, because those ones are not national issues. So we could go to each of those scenes as a nation, even though we are yet to be a nation. And that's why I've had occasions to talk about it in many places. Until we resolve the Nigerian question, we cannot even understand this problem, and then we cannot solve it. The Nigerian question is that we are not yet a nation. We are a country of multinational ethnic groups who have not been crafted into a nation state with a shared common values, with a definition of who is a citizen of Nigeria, devoid of religion and ethnicity, with a set of shared core values that will be what each one of us. We don't have to agree on everything, but we must have a set of core values which all the different ethnic groups can relate to and say, well, this is the kind of nation I want to be part of. This is the kind of union, the kind of nation I want to be. And these are the core values I subscribe to, and I'm willing to go to war to defend them. That's how nations are crafted. That's how America was crafted. Because America too is a nation of several, nations coming together. So that's what I can say as an opening. Like you rightly said, I mean, there's too much to say about this matter, because over 52 years of my life, this is what I've been pursuing, this is what I've been seeing and studying, starting as a boy soldier. I mean, the only thing that happened before I started wearing uniform was the 1966 coup. After the 1966 coup, all other coups, I was already in uniform, and I know the people, and I know the reasons behind those coups, and I know what it was meant to achieve. I know how even the creation of states and local government were done to expand their own agenda and their own kingdom and empire. And the rest of us were just watching, because not many of our fathers understood what was going on. So let me leave it at that, so that I can deal with more specific questions.
Thank you so very much, General Yola. Really, really impassioned response there, and we'll come back to you again later. Thank you very much indeed. There's a lot here, to chew, and I hope that everyone on this platform will see this as a call to action, not just a talk shop, that we live here and start thinking about, what can you do as an individual, wherever you are, whether you are, in Nigeria, you're a Nigerian diaspora, or just an interested African. What can you do? And I'm sure that we'll take a few more questions later on. But I will bring in now Mr. Dele Farutimi, who has also been, a passionate speaker on this issue, and knows what is going on, having interacted closely with some of the, key stakeholders there. But I recall that in one of his interventions, a few months or a few weeks ago, he also advised that a lot of people in the South are not fully informed about what is going on in North Central. And Reverend John Ayab alluded to that earlier, as did, Honorable Obunde. That we cannot sit still and think, this is just something that is happening up there on the other side of the Niger. It is an issue that touches us. And I want to invite him to bring his own reflection to bear. Of course, he's also a lawyer and an activist, so we want to hear also your legal perspective on what is going on. And one of the things that is coming to me as this conversation, unfolds, is also what Prof said earlier on, Professor Machunga, about that it was a mistake for Governor Sam Otom to ask effectively his own people to surrender their weapons in 2015. Why, the Fulani, herdsmen who were wielding sophisticated weapons did not. And that, in our view, may have worsened the situation of attacks. So, but there's also a legal issue there. How do we organize that so that, weapons do not, proliferate, and it then become a free-for-all? So I just wanted to share your own thoughts on this, what has been said, and on the issue, on the legal issue around genocide, around how do communities respond in a way that is legally sound and that does not escalate chaos and disorder. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. All existing protocols duly observed. I'm sorry for joining late. Blame it on Lagos. I got 1,001 excuses, but I won't begin to unpack them. Let me first of all thank General Yola. I caught the tail end of his presentation, and it dovetails a lot with most of my own thoughts, but there's something fundamental that I believe underpins the entirety of the subject itself and every other thing about which we speak: the absence of citizenship, the refusal to build a nation, the genocide that is in plain sight, that government and individuals are busy denying. These are merely fruits of the original sin that we almost always forget when we look at these issues, and that is impunity. In the absence of the rule of law, which cannot be tolerated by a feudal state, which is what Nigeria has become, because laws cannot be allowed to rule in feudal state where persons have to exist above the order. Feudal states are always found on caste systems, and that is why Jackson must be guilty of murder, even though he was merely defending himself. That is the peak of the institutionalization of impunity in the governance of Nigeria. This impunity will be licensed, and it has often been licensed. And what we generally sit down and begin to seek to discern today, genocide, must be understood for the multiple level of existence. You have the genocide that you can blame on the Fulani terrorists that we euphemistically refer to as the headsman, and those are the itinerant ones who travel vast distances, particularly in the Benue Trough and on the Plateau. That is one class of genocide. They move en masse with their cattle, despoil the land, and they seek to resettle those lands. That is happening actively on the Plateau and in the Benue Trough, one class of genocide. And then you've got the second class of genocide, the ones who do it for the mineral resources. You find those ones mostly in the northeast, mostly, not just there. You find them increasingly in Kwara and in Kogi axis now. Those ones are equally licensed to operate impunity. In the absence of the rule of law, a state that is not designed to have citizens and which cannot afford to have citizens because it cannot afford to allow the law to rule, has evolved. And that is what you are saying. Another class of genocide, because now persons who are carrying federal government mining licenses but cannot access the land because of the ancestral land rights of the Aborigines, they hire persons. And these ones also seek to despoil the land, another level of genocide. Now, there is a problem that is particularly endemic in the southern part of Nigeria, and that is the ignorance that attends an understanding of the North. The general assumption is that the North is a monolithic entity. They speak of the North as though it were to be one. The history of what became known as the North, as Northern Cameroon, voting in 1961 to become part of Nigeria and eventually becoming part of Northern Nigeria, that is rarely ever talked about. The vast Christian population who escaped enslavement pre-colonialism, either because of deliberate policy to keep them as slave stock or because they could not be dominated and conquered, but who were assimilated because of the British indirect rule and came under, to a large extent, Fulani dominion during the colonial era. People forget this, so they don't understand that religion is a matter of ethnic identity in northern Nigeria. So when we speak about genocide of Christians, it's not just because they're not just being killed for their faith, they're being killed for their ethnicity. So this misunderstanding or ignorance need to be bridged so that Southerners have better understanding and they stop thinking in terms of one monolithic North, which is not helpful. Now, it is very easy in the midst of all of this to demonize or stereotype the Fulani ethnic nationality. And I'm being very careful to say this. The virus of feudalism that had its root in the Fulani culture has jumped host. That virus is all over Nigeria today, and that is why the governors of the Middle Belt, who are even of Middle Belt extraction, are incapable of protecting their people because they are alienated from the people. They are no different from emirs themselves because they also operate on the principle of impunity. Their powers do not flow from the will of their people. It flows from the imprimatur of those who rule from Abuja. So in perhaps out of fear for what Tinubu or the APC might do to them over the years, what you found is that to a very large extent, the persons who are in the Middle Belt as ethnic members of the Middle Belt itself have not done anything to protect the interest of the victims of this genocide. Look at Aliyah in Benue, Mufwan to an extent on the plateau until his foot was put to the fire. Almost everyone who should be speaking for the victim denies the genocide itself. So I think it is important that we understand that each and every one of these ills flows directly from the absence of the rule of law in Nigeria and the multiple licenses of impunity that the Nigerian state has extended, the evil it has tolerated and allowed. That is without prejudice to the multitudes of Fulanis that were brought in, as General Yola referred to in 2014, 2015, as Baraje had told all of us on national TV. So these things are no longer discussions reserved for people who have access to privileged information. They've become mainstream. We know today, as a fact, that in an attempt to preserve these impunities, even the persons who have good intentions have been hamstrung and unable to do anything about it. Commodore Olawumi spoke to Nigerians from a TV studio. That's an intelligence officer. You don't ever hear their discussions. They don't come out to talk, but he had to come out of desperation because it was clear that the system was not interested in solving the problem. You've had Ali Kefi, Danjuma Ali Kefi has come out. This is General Yola speaking tonight again. The fact is that those who know or who should know are all aware of the fact that we are not where we are because we are incapable of defending ourselves. We are where we are because those who should be in the forefront of protecting the Nigerian and protecting the territorial integrity of Nigeria have already sold Nigerians and its territorial integrity. So I think if we're really going to be able to move the needle on the subject of Nigerian genocide, the first thing we have to do is insist on accountability at the level of the law ruling in the affairs of the country itself. I would keep it at that for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Farotimi, for a very, insightful contribution there and taking us back. I mean, there've been commentary earlier on also about the importance of law and order. I think, Honorable Obunde spoke to these earlier on, as did Ruben. Maybe I would just, before then going to the floor to take some questions, maybe I will actually begin from there. That the rule of law is a baseline, is like, a threshold without which we can actually begin to forge a nation. So, but the question is, so we have a nation, or rather, a geographical space.
You have a state that does not have citizens.
We have a state without citizens. We have a geographical entity without, a nation. So how do we actually get to that point because before we get to actually enforcing, somebody talk about, you have laws that are not being enforced. And I think that's also what you are speaking to about the rule of law, means actually that not only the laws are there, but the laws are being enforced. But with these licenses of impunity, So what is actually the way forward to begin to address that root, in a practical way? And I know you're involved in a lot of things,
Let
in that space.
me say this to you. Nigeria has gone beyond the point of no return. I spoke earlier today on my podcast and I likened our situation. I used a Yoruba proverb and I'll use it again so that we might understand the situation we are in a little clearer. Yorubas have this proverb. They say, Àgbẹ̀ tó gbin ọgọ́rùn-ún èbù tó ní igba ló ń gbìn. Tó bá jẹ ọgọ́rùn-ún òótọ́ tán, á jẹ ọgọ́rùn-ún rọ́. The farmer who planted 100 mounds of yam but announces to the world that he had planted 200. When he is done eating the 100 mounds that are true, he would have to eat his delusion of 100 mound as well. But that man, the delusional man, he has a point where he would have to do a hard reset. By the time hunger comes, he would have to call his kith and kins and say, come, I lied, I don't have food. You need to save me or he will starve to death. Nigeria is in that exact situation right now. We have taken loans from the future. We've built a house of lies. And we've come to the point where it is either this country will be reset because of national repentance. It's not about the rulers. We lie about our rulers. We are actually a reflection of those who rule our country. Impunity is not impunity when it works for us, and all of us at varying levels, we do it in our spaces. But the reality is that until we come to the point of national repentance as a collective, or at least have a critical mass that agrees that we cannot proceed on our current path, until we have that, the reality of our situation is that Nigeria is not moving forward. There is nothing any one of us can do to change Nigeria. If Nigeria is not subjected to the rule of law, Nigeria will not move an inch forward. It might implode before it gains that reset, but there must be a reset before Nigeria can move forward. Our judiciary is lost. I practiced law for at least 2 decades before I gave it up. And I didn't give it up simply because it is corrupt. I always knew of its corruption before I became a lawyer. I told everybody I'll retire at 50. So don't let anybody romanticize that I left. No, I left because I wanted to do other things with my life. Nigeria has never been ruled by law. So you have a situation where until we all come to the point of repentance, accept that, we can't continue like this. Let there be consequences for infractions and let the country be yoked to law. We ain't going nowhere. That might, I don't know what form that will take.
Yeah.
It might be a leader who emerges and is charismatic enough to lead us into that future. It's possible. Or it might be just one madman woke up one day and shot his way to power and decide that everybody must line up and do their things right. I don't know how we'll do it, but that's the only thing that I see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Farotimi. That's really loaded, very deep, thoughts there for reflection. And I want to bring General Yola back on to respond to that, but also to respond to the issue that comes from, what has been said by our speakers, including yourself earlier on, which is the subject here of, the balance of terror. So at the moment, we have a situation where, violence is a one-way street unleashed by communities across Nigeria, especially in the North Central. So, but is there a risk, because Prof Machunga was speaking earlier about, if people can defend themselves. So maybe that's part of the thing that can bring everybody to the table also of real conversation, a reset. But if violence is one way, it's less likely that we're going to get to that point. So, but my question to you, General Yola, before I come back to Prof, is how do we mitigate the risk of proliferation of arms among citizens. Because if we say now that the state cannot protect you, you have to protect yourself. Is there not a risk that we might be enabling, free-for-all criminality? General. Please, you need to unmute yourself, General.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Sorry, I was on the road, but I've got into a stable place now. And thank you all for setting this up. And thank you for all the contribution. I've not been part of it much until I joined and before I made the first introductory remarks I made. Let me take us back. I've been working on this. There was a colloquium in Abuja just I think last month, in which I came out with some 7 steps that the country needs to take urgently to resolve this issue. Since we want to focus on on solution rather than the problem. But like I said, of course, you must define the problem sufficiently in order to be able to prefer applicable and pragmatic solutions. Okay, so, but I guess by now we all have a good idea of what the problem is. Okay, so let me just go straight to the solutions, and then I will address the question you asked in particular. The first thing I prefer is that there has to be a national summit of ethnic nationality leaders, and which, of course, an example of it is what the southern governors did with the traditional rulers, and you saw how the northern governors and their own traditional rulers did a similar thing. I was so glad that happened, because that was exactly what I preferred. But I prefer now, having done both south and north, we should now have a joint one in Abuja. Let the ethnic nationality leaders be able to face each other and say, excuse me, this agenda you've been running for over 60 years, now we have come to a point where it must stop. Look, there is no point where a despot or a tyrant will wake up one morning and say, oh, suddenly he now loves you so much, he wants you to go scot-free. He doesn't want to dominate you anymore. It's not going to happen. It is the man who is being dominated that must wake up and say, enough of this nonsense. I'm not going to tolerate it any further. And we have to face each other face to face. That's the only language the people we are dealing with understand. All these other things we are doing, sometimes we are either reinforcing their lies and their half-truths and their deception. See, they've mainstreamed the lies and the half-truths so much that even our leaders, our elder statesmen are falling for these lies. Even some of them who have held the highest offices that you will assume that they should know. So that's how bad it is. And until we come to that point, it's good now that the two have happened. I would rather reckon both the two meetings as a rehearsal and a preamble. The next meeting that must hold is an national summit of ethnic nationality leaders. Let those same governors of the South, with their traditional rulers and other influencers and leaders within the South, come and meet with equal side in the North, in Abuja. Let's all be able to say, look, this is what is going on. We have tolerated it up until now, and no more. This far you have come, you shall go no further. Call off your brothers, send them back to the different countries in Africa you have brought them from, and get them out of our forests and our villages and our farms, and then we will have peace. What we've been doing so far is like a person trying to uproot a tree. Instead of uprooting the trees, cutting the branches and cutting the leaves. That's what we've been doing. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I just wanted to quickly interject there. Do you think, just drawing from what Mr. Farotimi was saying earlier, do you think that we have momentum to actually get that to happen at this point?
No, like I'm saying, the first step has been taken with what the northern governors and the traditional ruler did. The southern, and I was so glad that the southern leaders seized that initiative. That was fantastic. And then for the first time, they were ahead of the adversary. And then, of course, you saw how the northern people did their own too. And if you watch, you see the body language of the communique they sent out. If you know them, they are very strategic. You see that what they brought out in the communique are the portrait meaningless statements. The real issues they discussed in that meeting, they will never say them back as communique. They are smarter than that, okay? But it's good that these two things have happened, and there are sufficient preparation for a national summit to happen now. Unless we want to dodge, we've been dodging this issue. Unless we want to keep dodging, that must take place before we can move forward. That's number one step. Let me just run through my 7 steps quickly, if you don't mind. Number 2 is once you have had that meeting, in that meeting, I also crafted a framed vision of a new Nigeria. Okay, I don't mind. I can post it on this chat while we talk.
Maybe you can post it and give a quick summary.
Yes. I mean, it just talks about the kind of nation, a new Nigeria we all look forward to. A nation that is knowledge-based, technology-driven, where every citizen has an ample opportunity to realize his potential or her potential and be able to contribute in turn to the greatness of Nigeria as the consolation and the pride of Africa and the Black race at large. That in simple, which let every nation that wants to be part of the union, every ethnic nationality group, be able to say, okay, this is the kind of nation I want to be part of. Once we agree on that, then the next thing each of those, or both sides now, will now come out with an extraordinary collection of strategic thinkers, development experts, change management experts, great influencers from the different side, who will now come out and agree on what would be our shared core value. And I also gave a proposal on that Section 23 of the Nigerian Constitution already gives us what it calls national ethics. And they are listed there that national ethics shall be dignity, discipline is number 1, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, self-reliance, religious tolerance, and patriotism. 7 fantastic values.
Absolutely.
That you come forth.
Can you really share this on the chat?
I will put all them. I'll put them on the chat very soon. I'm just settled down.
Yes, thank you so much. This is
so if we start with that, the only thing I tweak there is the religious tolerance. Again, that gives you the mentality. I mean, my brother Dele will tell us better as a lawyer. Lawyers talk about interpretation, where you fix yourself in the frame of the mind of the law framers, so that you can construe what they had in mind appropriately in framing that law. If you look at it, it tells you something that depends whoever, when people do teamwork, usually if a few people that end up doing it, I mean, that's what happens all the time. Yeah. But whoever must have crafted that must have come from a mindset of thinking that there is one religion that is superior to the rest, and they are simply tolerating the others. So I tweaked that, and I said that should be religious mutual respect, not tolerance. Religious mutual respect. That was number 2. Number 3, that this set of people will now craft the citizenship of a Nigerian citizen. What makes a Nigerian citizen? Devoid of ethnicity and religion. Okay? And then the next thing to follow that is, now that we have agreed that we all want to be part of this union, what kind of system do we want to run? We want to craft a system of systems. What makes America great is because it runs a system of systems. Okay, if you have read the book Why Nations Fail, Achimoglu and Robinson, the point they made there is that the Nohalis in Arizona and the Nohalis in Mexico, they are the same people, the same culture, the same background, the same ethnicity, but those in American side, they're enjoying first class, first world lifestyle and standard, whereas those in Mexico, they're enjoying at best third world standard. And the difference is the system. When a nation crafts a system so that things are not just done when you like, how you like, if you like, and how you like. No, there will be a system that goes from policy to strategies to processes and procedures and drills and routines and checklists for doing everything from start to finish. So that it's not somebody coming and doing what he likes and how he likes and treating us as if we are children, and if he decides to give us, we clap for when governors go and they go and commission borehole, we clap for them, because we are used to those who don't even do anything. So when they do even the slightest thing, we clap for them as if that's not supposed to be their work. All those kind of mentalities, we will get rid of them when system has been put in place. Another example to look at is the Switzerland system, where people they're elected to run the system, not to come and do what they like. There is already a system that you come and run it. There is no benefit for you being a leader. There is
General.
Yes.
Yeah, what I'm picking from you there, and I think it's an important highlight, something that is worth highlighting there. And I've said it also in many fora in the past, that the linchpin of civilizational progress a system. You have to put a system in place so that generations upon generation can build upon it. So that it's not random. It's not on a whim. It's not that you wake up and you are doing things randomly.
Yes, and it's not individually, and it's not
individually.
cultist.
And somebody has said, just a few days ago, that for Nigeria there is no collective aspiration. All the leaders that are there, they're in need for themselves. So the motivation is very individual, is very personal, is very selfish. And I think it also links to what Mr. Farotimi was saying earlier on about, the impunity, the licenses of impunity. But I want to interject there and bring, Reverend Ayab in, because General, you said something there about, things are happening that is showing sign of progress. But we know that nothing is taken for granted. You have to, press the momentum. You have to press the advantage. And I think, like other speakers have interjected, the despot that is dominating you will not just wake up one day and say, yeah, I'm tired of dominating you. You have to press it. So my question, Reverend Haya, building on what General Yola said, is that what do you think the Christianization of Nigeria and Christians, generally the Christian church in Nigeria, can do? And maybe what are your thoughts about what we have not done well? Because we need to do soul searching. I think, Mr. Farotimi was also speaking to that we shouldn't just talk about our leaders. A country, people get the leader they deserve. So we need to do soul searching as citizens. So what are your reflections about, where the church or Christians have failed? And what can we do? What can the church, what can Christians do going forward to press this advantage that General Yola spoke about, to make this change, this reset happen?
Well, it is true that many of our Christian leaders have not been cooperating when it comes to fighting about this issue. Their voice is low, and in some cases, they are completely silent. I remember when Rufai was governor, every Sunday, Pastor Enenche will step out and attack his government for poor handling of the killings of Christians, for poor handling of the way the chief of Agwam Adara was killed by his adapters. And what they quickly ran to do was to start checking around within Kaduna to find any of his church that do not have papers. And they use it against him. But I must commend the courage of Enenche. He stood his ground. We were there, we stood together. I did not say this to discredit any leader, but I was also disappointed as CAN chairman at that time with one of our leaders who chose to come to Kaduna more than 5 times. Never in one of those visits did he meet Christian leaders who were facing these killings. He was just meeting the governor to lobby for contract for his child or for his members. I think this is where we are having a lot of challenges. Many of our leaders even want to go to states and part of the North where these issues are, but purely for business, purely to get money. They don't care whether we are crying. They don't care whether we are being persecuted. They don't care whether we are being killed. They don't care because, and with due respect to the way we do our Christianity today, we become idol or hero worshippers. Whether the leader is doing what is right or not, Papa have arrived. Everybody wants to follow Papa, even when Papa is taking us to where, as Christians, within the period he's coming, he's supposed not to go to government house. He's supposed to come and see us, identify with us, commiserate with us. I remember during the killings, those who walk around the president of CAN that time, also wanting to get cheap money, came and connived with a government official, a Christian who was busy just playing game around that time. And he facilitated a meeting between the Christian Association of Nigeria with Kaduna State government, but they were told in clear terms, I, Reverend Haya, who has been going to the media to say Christians have been killed, I at that time for over 2 months organized an indoor rally every week to express our concern, to cry out, and then to pray that they should not bring me to government house. They came, they arrived Kaduna on Sunday, met us at the prayer rally, but we didn't go to government house with them. What a shame. And when they arrived government house, the man played game, produced some kind of videos that are not honest, confused them, I even remember one of the bishops who came hail from Akwa Ibom quickly even wrote on one of our social media platforms his confusion. But God has a way of vindicating his people. It wasn't long, the truth started coming out. They have collected the little Ekoshe Olua, if it is Olua at all. Their mouths were shut. But thank God, one stood his ground. We never compromised. We told the governor the truth, and I refused to visit government house because I cannot go to sit with the governor when every week I'm burying people. I cannot go to collect envelope from the governor when every day I know people are being killed. And I know that the man can lie and has no shame when he lies. So these are the truth. So I quite understand the problem and the challenge of having Christian leaders coming out to speak. Some are doing it. Others will prefer to be nice guys, get favor. That's why when Trump came out and said, I want to repeat what I said earlier, we must take advantage of this situation for those who are speaking loud to say, look, let's pursue it and see whether they will join us. So I have seen some of them speaking favorably now and calling for action, but that's not enough. The other testimony is not good enough for them and their church. But because their members wouldn't even want you to say that the apostle was wrong, they prefer to follow gently.
And that's the other thing I wanted to say, Reverend. I think you have spoken some sobering truth there about leaders, about why they need to do the right thing and why they need to understand the urgency of this, the importance of this, because their voices for people. God has put them there for a purpose. And like he said, like the word to Esther, if you keep silent for such a time as this, destruction might come to you as
Truly,
well.
some of them have been silent. They don't even want to offend the system.
But
they want to
the
continue to be nice guys.
But the other thing you have mentioned is also important. It's also worth emphasizing, which is about the followers. So the leaders, it's important to shine the light on leaders, but also what about the ordinary Christian in churches? I think it's also about the way we understand this issue, the way we also challenge these leaders to do the right
thing. I think Rotimi really put it clear.
Yeah.
Though he's speaking as if he's talking of government, but I consider his words as we as the church must reflect on this.
Yes.
Because we will get the kind of leaders we want and continue to suffer this. We must stand up and say enough is enough, and not just by word, but by action. For us in Kaduna, we came out in 2000 to protest against Sharia and we were killed. If not for people like Ladi and others who came around, how many of the other Christian leaders really care? I was in leadership at that time. I remember one Christian leader in Lagos that I will remember that actually stood for us is Bishop Okonkwo. I just wrote Bishop Okonkwo a letter telling him the challenge. Bishop Okonkwo wrote a check and posted it to us. We're not just asking about money, we're asking for people to identify with us when things like this happen. I started an example of what Kuka, when I confronted him about what he's saying, he said, look, this was what I mean. I didn't say that there are no killings, there are no persecution. I simply said, we have not been showing solidarity enough. How can we be more educated than these people? And they cause us pain, but we can't use our education to show them that we can stop it. How can we be more organized than these people, but they are persecuting us and we keep just crying? And he cited example, you know how the Catholic knights used to dress like some very senior, how do our children present these film actors or actors? He said, can you just dress like that and come to Sokoto? If you are dressed this way, all of you and come to Sokoto, that you do not agree for the killing of Deborah. Let's see whether that day something will not happen in Nigeria. The government will not wake up from their slumber. But when things happen like that, everybody will keep mute, everybody will just, and then we come, the business is, we are crying, we are being persecuted, we are being persecuted. Is one soul not the same with 1 million soul? And I met one Reverend Father who just said something to me, and I actually picked it. He said, look, even the Muslims themselves seems to have forgotten what their Quran says. In Quran chapter 5, verse 32, the glorious Quran says that if you kill one person deliberately, it is like if you have killed the whole humanity. So if we are trying to define genocide in the context of the Quran, we have done over genocide in Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend. I want to bring Honorable Obunde and Prof back on, but I also want to give opportunity for those who are on the call, maybe for one or two people, because we have just about 10 minutes left on this program. And the time has gone fairly quickly. But I want us to drill down to what can we do so that when we all live here, everybody on this platform, you are an opinion leader in your own right. You can make your own input. This shouldn't just be a talk shop. We should go there to see what we can do as individuals. Why waiting for, if you want to ask a question, maybe any of the co-hosts or anyone else, you can raise your hand and we call you as we round up this session. But while we're waiting for that, I want to come back to Honorable Obunde for a very quick intervention there about what because you were talking there earlier on. I mean, you've been a political office holder. What needs to be done at the level of political organization? Because we're coming back again to this issue of organization. So at the level of political organization, certainly there has been some work before about the southern leaders and middle belt leaders. So what do you think the work that needs to be done? Because surely we should have a coalition across the country that want what is good for everyone, that want a system that is based on the rule of law, that want a reset, or a constitutional reset, really the birth of a true nation. So what are your thoughts, if you may, very quickly, about how this can be done? Because somebody has said we talk about the Fulanis, and I'm glad that Mr. Farotimi also highlighted that we are not trying to demonize any ethnic group. That is not what we should do, and that is not what we are doing, and that's not what any of the speakers are doing. But in the end, in terms of numbers, I understand actually the percentage of Fulanis in Nigeria is a small fraction. So how is it? And I think, Reverend Ayab also highlighted that, and General Yola as well, that, we have educated people, we have the numbers. How is it that we have not been able to organize, to actually drive forward the true, positive vision for the country? So what are your thoughts, very quickly, Honorable Opunde?
Okay, thank you very much. Briefly, I want to first of all say that I am already prejudiced because I believe that God has an agenda for Nigeria, and that's where I'm coming from. I believe that the deliverance of Nigeria will come via the meeting point of two thoughts. The first one is the covenant track. People like us who are talking, who believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ as a fact. That's the first thing, because we are dealing with a spiritual issue. So the first track, covenant people who have Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, a meeting point of that track, and the social justice track. I've already put on your WhatsApp wall the 5 pillars that make up the social justice track. And those 5 pillars are that for the last 400 years of history have shown that for any society to make progress, 5 pillars must be in place. 1, protection of lives and property. 2, rule of law. 3, functional education. 4, science and technology must be a tool for advancing that society. And 5, a fair and a just reward system, where the social justice track, which I've just called now, and the covenant track meet, is where Nigeria's deliverance will come. The social justice track is devoid of religion, culture, or history, or geography. Wherever human beings exist, these 5 pillars, there's no one who disagrees with them. We can decide to mobilize people along these lines, but we have to start from the social justice, from the covenant track, people who can deal with the spiritual dimension of things, meeting together with the social justice track, creating a number that can create impact. Talk about 5 million people in Nigeria who know, who share, who agree with what I'm saying now, just 5 million of them in an organized manner. That is why we set up a platform for that mobilization. Because if you have that, if you have 5 million people, 10 million people in an organized manner, you must be sought after. We can pursue that. Let me stop there.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Honorable Bunde. And I just want to come now to Professor Machunga. But before I ask for your thought, and then I also wanted to speak to the issue about, how can people defend themselves, because one of the issues you raised, without falling into chaos of lawlessness as well, because how can people defend themselves within the ambit of the law? But before you respond, I want to bring in Professor Amos Fatokun, who also has a question, so that you can take those together in case. Professor Fatokun, please, your question and comment.
Yes, thank you very much to all the speakers. It's an excellent time here. We're very grateful for all your contributions. My questions will be two quick questions. The first one is, are there specific things that Christians in diaspora can do to support demobilization? So which you think in terms of the platforms that we've got? And secondly, I think it was a threat issued by Donald Trump that actually further mobilized us into some of these things that we're doing. Although Christians seem to have been divided over that do we need the intervention of a foreign government before we're able to do something? And you would think that if we're not able to help ourselves, what is bad in having external support? So I want to know the views of our speakers on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Fatokun. And I will go now to Professor Machunga, maybe for your thought and any response you may have to Professor Fatokun. And I will then invite, speakers for their final comment as we round up today's session.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity once again. There's one thing though, before I kind of respond to the comments or question by Mr. Amos. There's a kind of apathy or lullness which I've not been able to understand about Nigeria. We're so passive. Anything and everything can be done. I don't know if somebody can help me respond or answer this question. Our mind has been so dulled that, look at the number of years people have been killed, decimated, villages taken over. You see the same scene. Women will come out and protest and cry and shout, and then everybody goes back home. At one point, I was describing Nigeria. I said, the country is schizophrenic. When I say Nigeria is a schizophrenic country, because you're in the city, life is normal. You wake up, you go to work. All the major cities in the country carry about your normal life. And then when you go to the outskirts where this massacre and killings are going on, it's a total different, it's a different country completely. But I don't know if anyone can help me out and explain this. Why is it that we are very numb, passive? We do not know how to. I remember there was one Egyptian that came to work in Nigeria many, many years ago. So he was describing Nigeria. He said he has never seen people like Nigerians. And I right now with this genocide, I think it might be a good comment, but I think it's negative. It has impacted us negatively. He said in Egypt, they added 1 penny to rice, the price of rice. The rampage that took place, and they totally refused to back down until the government removed that 1 penny to say a mudu of rice. But he said he has watched for the years he worked. We were living in Maiduguri at that time. Year in, year out, all manner of things are done to the people. We're there. I want to kind of lean in on what Reverend Hayab has said about the lack of push from the church, or even the so-called personal complicity. I kind of share that very strongly, because it seems the way we receive Christ, or the faith of Jesus Christ, made us to be non-political, non-social. Our mind is receive Jesus Christ and go to heaven. You are living on this earth meanwhile, and there are things you must experience. Meanwhile, the Bible is littered with stories of how Israel, they come and attack Israel, they go and defend themselves. And it's biblical. So where and when did we separate ourselves from the fact that you can't just sit down and allow yourself to be killed? You shouldn't. The Bible talks about not going to look for the trouble or fight. But there's nothing wrong in self-defense. Israel has been living in self-defense. If Israel did not live in self-defense, there will be no nation of Israel today. But Nigeria, with all our number, education, and everything that we have, we're passive, we're docile. So anyway, back to the, the point, maybe to support diaspora. Without unity, I don't even know if we can even begin any journey in terms of defending or putting things correctly. The Christian genocide, the Christians are so disunited, it's not even funny. One denomination will be doing their thing, another one is doing their thing, and so on. We have not seen it. One life of a Christian should be the life of every Christian in Nigeria. One life taken. Leah Sharibu's captivities, at that period, we seem to have we came together because everybody, Leah Sharibu, and maybe the Chibok girls. But thereafter, as we are talking right now, there are communities being ravaged right now as we are speaking. I don't know. I don't have any evidence, but it's happening per second across the country right now. But, you deal with your thing. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm living in Abuja. I'll get up tomorrow, go to work. So schizophrenia is working. So diaspora people, I don't know. It's so good that you guys have dove into this situation. But the biggest thing is, how do we come together in a united manner to face this thing? How do we break that thinking, that passivity, that anything they do to us is okay? And life goes on. You cry, shout, you cry by yourself. Sometimes the community will join you to cry, but tomorrow you just go. Nobody even hears. You don't do anything. And I've always asked, NLC, all these social unions, I've never seen them organize a massive shutdown of the country because of the killings of people, citizens of the nation. When are they going to do that? Even me as ASU member, ASU as it should affect us. ASU as a union should say, okay, we're protesting about, welfare of lecturers, blah, blah, blah. But people are being killed every day. Can we not even take that matter and make it a case?
Yeah.
So these are unions, NLC and the whole nine of them. They need to wake up. I'm waiting to see the day they'll call for this country. The killing is enough. We must shut down the country until something is done. They don't do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Very, very well said there. There is a deficit of moral outreach. There is apathy. And we have to address that before we can get before we can make any progress. I couldn't have said it better. I want to invite General Yola now for your final comment, and then over to Reverend Ayab and Honorable Obunde as well for your final remarks as we bring this session to a close. I think Mr. Farotimi has had to leave. I was also going to mention that Reverend Chukwa Okunle could not join us today because, strangely enough, he had an emergency call this evening to visit one of the governors in Nigeria over a kidnapping case, a new kidnapping case that they are trying to resolve. And that just really buttresses, what Prof was saying there, that this is not something that we read about last week or 2 weeks ago. This is happening per second. This is happening on a daily basis. And we cannot afford to be at ease, about it. We cannot be numb to this. And I think that mobilization of outreach has to happen at individual citizen level and then at the community level before we can make progress. General Yola, your final remarks, please, for 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me just a quick response to the last speaker's question about this manifest docility and timidity that have been exhibited in Nigeria, not only by Nigerians, even including the church. Now, and I think this is an area where the church can bring solution. We need to realize that, and we as believers should even understand it better, that nobody dominates another man without receiving power to do so. There's a spiritual dimension of it. The Fulanis are not Muslims. They are simply using Islam because it's coterminous with their own vision and mission. The Qadriya Sufis is the original foundation of the Fulani lineage, of the Usman Dan Fodio lineage. They actually got power that is tied to the spirit of Leviathan that established the throne upon which they've been holding Nigeria to ransom. We as believers must know this, and we must do the spiritual, both prophetic praying and all that needs to be done to break that hold upon the nation. There is the throne of Leviathan, there is the throne of the dragon, which was introduced under Buhari. You know, we need, I don't know what this meeting, how often we're going to do this. I guess this is the beginning of a marathon journey. This is not a one meeting thing. We cannot come out with solution in just one meeting to all of these array of things. I think we need to sit down, outline what the problem is, what are the issues to be addressed, and what are the strategies, trusting the Lord for wisdom from above to deal with each of those issues. But we need to understand this aspect, and we should know it, that even in churches, I can bet you there are churches today who didn't pray for Nigeria for 1 minute, and yet they had a service of 2.5 hours. That's how bad it is, that even the leaders are so oblivious of the reality on the ground as not to put it on the front burner, even of their local church. So that spiritual aspect is there. There is a hold upon the nation. There is a spirit of sleep that have been foisted upon the nation. That the nation has been in a state of stupor. That's why this Trump intervention is actually a divine intervention and a rude awakening to wake the entire nation up. That look, you guys have been sleeping. Wake up. Okay, so let me leave it at that because of time. But I think my concern is this is a good beginning if this is the first time, because I mean, I think the Lord just want me to be here because it's not as if I remember this meeting. I just saw Professor Sheon Kolade's text, and I don't see WhatsApp text often because I'm not very tight to my phone, even though I'm a signal officer. So I think we need to do more of this and become more strategic in doing it, and not just do a talk show. But I think we need a technical session where we have people who can sit down together, take this problem one by one and outline solutions prayerfully and bringing all our different expertise to bear. That's when we'll be able to get solutions. A meeting like this is good to just raise this issue, raise awareness, create more interest, and then, but we must go further to now get real solution teams that will be set up. After we have listed the issues, maybe we can then break them or group them and then get different teams to work on different aspects so that at the end of it, we can then come together and bring the solutions together. Thank you very much. And thank you for organizing this.
I cannot agree with you more, General. I think we have to, move this conversation forward. It should not stop here. This is just the beginning, and we have to be committed for the long haul. And I think that's part of what it means to be engaged with this. This is part of what it means to be alive to this, as Prof was saying earlier on. So we have to embrace this as a priority, and as a journey in which we all have to stay with it for the long haul. Thank you once again, General. And I'll be coming back to you. I'll be speaking to you more about this, about what the next steps should be on this platform. Reverend Hayab, your final remarks, please.
Well, this is a good beginning, and we look forward to more engagements like this. But we also look forward to synergizing and coming up with concrete actions as it has been suggested. Someone earlier asked, where do the Christian in diaspora come in? Number one, when issues like this come out, today the world is fighting on media. You can help us amplify some of these stories we share, some of these stories and testimonies we give. I keep telling people that I don't want to tell the story as a researcher. I prefer to tell the story as a victim because I am one. I have suffered it. My church was burned. I lost pastors. I lost members. I buried people, as I told you in my opening remarks. So it's not what people did. I was involved. I sit down sometimes in my trauma, imagining the kind of corpse I saw when I was asked to go and bury the mass people. So these are reality. We need to amplify this story. We need to let the world know. I believe what is happening today is as a result of advocacy by many groups. We continue the advocacy until action is seen done. Let's not just do meeting and go away. See, those who are afraid that Trump is coming, I even want them to be more afraid so that we will know that they have connect with the terrorists. Because if we push this way, then we'll be like, we will know more about the evil that is going on in our land. So I don't want us to just talk and go. We continue. But we could also organize seminar and training. Our pastors need to build their capacity in understanding the game, in understanding what is going on. I'm happy that I'm meeting General again on this platform. Sir, there's your colleagues from the other faith are not ashamed to ask their religious organization to organize a seminar. They can come, teach, empower, because pastors can only react to things according to their knowledge. Sometimes some of us who come out to speak, you hear pastors telling, be careful, oh, because they are thinking that if you say these things, see, we're giving these people so much space that they are thinking that they can just threaten everybody. That's why I come back to thank Bunde. I remember during the Otom's time, sometimes when you listen to Otom on TV, you will assume the next day he will not survive it. But you see, we're dealing with the psyche of the people who also get scared when you can come out publicly and talk. So our pastors' capacity need to be built to understand that we need, if there's a voice in Kaduna, let there be another voice in Kwara, another voice in Kogi, another voice in Kano, another voice in Gombe, then another voice in Enugu, amplifying the same voice in Lagos. Then they will know we are together. But if one voice speaks in Kaduna and we become spectators, then we are not saying anything. He will be seen and tagged as a noisemaker.
Thank you very much. Very eloquently said. Reverend, I can't agree with you more. We have our voices. We have our voices. There's none of us that can say we have nothing. And certainly in the diaspora, Prof. Fatukun was asking earlier on, we can do a lot to amplify the voices of all these pastors, the pastors in Kwara, in Kogi, in Benue State, to tell them that, they are not just lone voices. They are connected to voices in the United Kingdom, in the United States, in Germany, everywhere else in the world, where we will be, putting the megaphone on and amplifying the voices of our people and our leaders. Thank you very much. I think that is one action point. And training also, I'm sure General Yola is paying very close attention to that. What can we do to capacitate our leaders, our Christian leaders, training in various aspects, to build more confidence and more capacity and capability to lead from the front as they are on this issue. Honorable Obunde, your final remarks as we round up. Please bear with us, everyone. We are sort of 15 minutes over our time, but yeah, it's been a very, very enlightening and insightful and thought-provoking conversation. Engineer Obunde, over to you for your final remarks, please.
Sorry, I'm a practical person, a field man, a politician, former chairman, former member of House, former many things. Benue State is very critical in what we're talking about. We're working at taking back that state, and I'm personally involved, wanting to go back as governor of Benue State. Anyone who wants to talk to me privately about that, we can talk about it. We need to regain Benue State. It is very strategic in what lies ahead of us. That's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Engineer Bunde. I think somebody made a comment also in the chat about the need for us to have more Christian leaders at the very top, not number 2, not number 3, and I think your response also speaks to that. And I'm sure we'll be having more conversation with you on that very point, Honorable Bunde.
Yes.
Because it is it's an important conversation. And I think you're right in saying Benue is a strategic state, is a whether if you like state, that, signifies, what needs to happen across the country. Thank you so very much indeed. And once again, I just want to, let me invite Professor Fatoko a 1 minute word of thanks to our speakers as we round up today. Prof, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. A quick word on behalf of ATL.
All right, so we're so grateful to all of you for coming to speak to us. It's been a wonderful time. I thought if we even went on for much longer, people would have loved to do that, but we have to respect the time. But it's good to know that people have encouraged us. Maybe we need to come back in some form or the other to continue the conversation, especially the practical things to do. So we're very grateful to all of you. We thank you, Reverend John Ayab, for coming. We thank you, Honorable Towers Obunde, and Professor Salamatu Machinga Mabula, and also Mr. Farotumi, who has left us because he had to go. So we don't take your presence for
And
granted at
General
all.
Yola.
And General Yola, sorry. Yes, and General Yola, thank you so much. All of you speaking very passionately and very honestly. You have poured out your hearts, and we really understood those things that you were trying to tell us. We understood the perspectives, and some of the perspectives we didn't even know before. You have enlightened us, and that's really, really great. And so all of you, us at ATL, we're very grateful to you, and we pray that the Lord will continue to bless you. It will continue to protect you. It will continue to encourage you, because everybody needs a lot of encouragement from the Lord. It's a very, very difficult situation, but we know that the Lord is in control. So thank you so very much to all of you. And we're grateful to all of the participants also. We know that there are some of our people who are here today who are not necessarily part of the ATL, but we publicized the program and we wanted many more people to join us. So thank you everybody for finding time to join us today. And I will pass over to Professor Kolade.
Thank you so very much indeed, Professor Fatoko. And I just want to say once again, thank you to our speakers. We will take this forward. We will have conversation among us as the Academy for Transformative Leadership. We will reflect on this and come up with key areas, at least as a starting point, action point, because that is really important. That is number one thing we have to take from here. What are the next action points? And we're coming back to you. And this is a public event, of course. If half of those who are here are not members of the ATL, but please keep out an eye. We'll be reaching out to you because we're all in this together. So this is a collective struggle for our people, for our country, and for a future that our children and grandchildren can be proud of. At the moment in time, this future is a nightmare, and it doesn't have to be so. And once again, thank you very much to our distinguished speakers, and we will take this forward to the next action point. Thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of the evening and then the new week ahead. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, I can assure you the session is recorded, and the recording will be shared. Indeed, Flora, can you, for those who are still on, can you post the link to the YouTube recording on the chat, please? If Flora is there, please. And we're going to also share this on our website. So please, you can also share our website, the link to our website.
Do we have a WhatsApp group?
We do have a WhatsApp channel. We are trying to open another one that is, more public, that we can use to mobilize a lot of people, and it's one of the action points that we're going to take from here as well.
Okay.
We will take that forward as an action point. So,
all right.
Because that is important in terms of continuing communication. I've
Okay.
shared the link on the chat, but I think we just encourage everybody. Can Dr. Beto or anyone else share the link to our website as well? We're going to post a recording of this, but we will be reaching out to you to bring you all up on a WhatsApp platform where we can take these conversations forward. Thank you, Flora. And yes. Okay, and the website. Can you also share the website also, Flora, on the chat? I'm going to stop recording in a moment, and then we will end this session. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Egbetogun. Okay, thank you very much once again, everyone, and good night for now, and we will be back in touch with you all. Thank you.